Under the fading orange glow of early evening, Lucy Hart knelt beside a public trash bin in the center of downtown San Diego, her fingers trembling as she pushed aside a cardboard box, hoping for something still wrapped, still edible. She moved quickly, quietly, like someone who had learned that invisibility was safer than pride. She hadn't always lived like this. 3 months ago, Lucy Hart had been Dr. Lucy Hart, respected literature professor, published researcher, invited speaker. Now she slept on park benches and learned which cafes threw out food before closing time. That was when a shadow fell across her. "You're not ugly," a man's voice said calmly. "You're just lost, and you don't belong here." Lucy stiffened. She tightened her grip on the plastic bag that held everything she owned and turned slowly, ready to snap back at another stranger with misplaced pity. But the man standing there didn't look like anyone who belonged on this sidewalk either. He wore a tailored navy coat, spotless shoes, a watch that probably cost more than her old apartment's rent for a year. He looked deliberate, like someone who planned every step of his life and never missed. "I'm not asking for money," Lucy said sharply. "I know," he replied. "I'm asking you to marry me." The sentence landed wrong, absurd, dangerous. Before she could respond, the man knelt down, right there on the concrete, in full view of passing commuters and curious onlookers. He opened a small black box. Inside, a diamond caught the dying sunlight and scattered it like sparks. "My name is Daniel Reed," he said evenly, "and I need your help more than you realize." Lucy took a step back, her heart slamming against her ribs. People were staring now. Phones came out. Whispers followed. "Are you out of your mind?" she hissed. "Get up. You're humiliating yourself." Daniel didn't move. "I have 23 days to get married," he said quietly. "If I don't, I lose everything I've spent my life building." That stopped her. Lucy studied his face. He wasn't drunk, not joking. His eyes, sharp, steady, painfully honest, held something she recognized too well: desperation. "Find someone else," she snapped. "There are thousands of women who would say yes to that ring without blinking." Daniel closed the box and rose slowly, careful to keep distance between them. "They want the money," he said. "You don't." Lucy folded her arms, defensive. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you say thank you even when people insult you," he replied. "I know you help others on this street even though you have nothing. And I know you didn't choose this life." Her breath caught. She hated that her eyes burned. "Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying," she muttered. "It's not charity," Daniel said. "It's a contract." He explained quickly, precisely. A clause in his grandfather's will. A family company on the line. A cousin waiting to take control if he failed. A marriage required. Not love, not children. Just legal proof. 6 months, he finished. Public appearances. Family dinners. No intimacy. Separate rooms. Lucy laughed, short and bitter. "And why would I agree to destroy my dignity for your inheritance?" "Because I'll pay you enough to rebuild your life," he said. "And because when this ends, I'll help you do one thing you clearly still care about." She hesitated. "What thing?" "Clear your name." The words hit like a blade. Lucy swallowed hard. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know you were accused of plagiarism," Daniel said gently, "and that it wasn't true." Her knees almost buckled. Silence stretched between them, thick and fragile. "How much?" she whispered. $500,000, he replied without blinking. "Half now. Half when we divorce." The world tilted. That money meant lawyers, investigations, a chance to fight back, a chance to stop running. "And my conditions," Lucy said quickly before fear could talk her out of it. "No physical relationship, absolute respect. And when this ends, you help me expose the truth." Daniel nodded once. "Agreed." She didn't say yes that night. He gave her 2 days. A card, an address in a gated neighborhood she'd only seen from bus windows. Then, quietly, he pointed her toward a shelter nearby and walked away, leaving her with more hope than she'd allowed herself to feel in months. 2 nights later, Lucy stood in front of iron gates taller than any door she'd ever owned. She pressed the intercom. "Yes?" a woman's voice answered. "My name is Lucy Hart," she said. "Daniel Reed invited me." The gates opened. Inside, marble floors gleamed. A woman introduced herself as Margaret, the house manager. Lucy followed her through a living room larger than her former department office. Daniel stood when he saw her. "You came," he said. "I said I would," Lucy replied, forcing her spine straight. They talked for hours. Rules, money, risks. Lies they'd have to tell. Truths they wouldn't. Finally, Daniel slid an envelope across the table. $250,000, he said, as promised. Lucy stared at it. Her hands shook when she picked it up. "I'll arrange a civil ceremony," Daniel continued. "Monday morning, quiet, legal." She nodded. That night, Lucy slept in a hotel bed for the first time in months. She cried in the shower until her knees gave out. Not from sadness, but from relief she didn't trust yet. The next morning, Daniel picked her up.
Are you serious right now?
Shopping.
Yes, of course
Clothes,
I will.
a salon.
You made
Mirrors
me the
she barely
happiest
recognized
man
herself
alive.
in. By evening, she looked like the woman she used to be. And tomorrow night, she would meet the man who decided Daniel's fate, his grandfather. As Lucy stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the navy dress Daniel had chosen because it made her look strong, one thought echoed in her mind. This was supposed to be pretend. So why did her heart already feel like it was stepping into something dangerously real? And as she turned off the light, one question lingered. Quiet, terrifying, irresistible. Was this the beginning of her salvation? Or the most beautiful mistake she would ever make? Lucy felt the weight of the mansion before she ever crossed its threshold. The iron gates closed behind Daniel's car with a sound that echoed too loudly in her chest, as if sealing her into a life she had only agreed to borrow. Gravel crunched beneath the tires as they rolled toward the main house, a glass and stone structure glowing warmly against the darkening sky. It looked inviting. It also looked like a place where mistakes echoed. Daniel parked and cut the engine. For a second, neither of them moved. "My grandfather will be direct," he said finally, fingers still resting on the steering wheel. "He values honesty. If he senses anything rehearsed, he'll push harder." Lucy nodded, smoothing the fabric of her dress over her knees. "Then I'll tell the truth, as much of it as I safely can." Daniel glanced at her, something unreadable flickering behind his calm expression. "That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say." Inside, the house smelled faintly of wood polish and citrus. A woman in her 50s, with composed posture and observant eyes, greeted them. "Good evening. I'm Margaret," she said, her gaze briefly assessing Lucy from head to toe. Not unkindly, but thoroughly. "Mr. Reed's grandfather is waiting in the dining room." Lucy felt Daniel's hand hover near her back as they walked. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. His presence alone felt grounding, and that realization unsettled her more than anything else. The dining room was intimate rather than grand. A long table, soft lighting, a single man seated at the head, his silver hair neatly combed, his posture straight despite his age. His eyes, sharp and inquisitive, lifted the moment they entered. "Daniel," he said, "so this is the woman who made you finally settle down." Lucy stepped forward before Daniel could speak. "Lucy Hart. It's an honor to meet you, sir." The old man rose and extended his hand. His grip was firm, evaluating. "Call me Robert," he said. "Excessive formality makes liars nervous." Lucy met his gaze and held it. "Then I'm relieved you prefer simplicity." A flicker of amusement crossed his face. Dinner unfolded like a careful dance. Questions came steadily, deliberately. Where had she studied? What she loved to read? What she wanted for her future? Lucy answered calmly, choosing truth wherever possible. She spoke of her love for literature, of teaching, of believing words could shape people. When the question she dreaded finally arrived, it came gently. "Daniel mentioned you left academia," Robert said, cutting into his meal. "That isn't usually an easy decision." Lucy felt the room tighten. She inhaled slowly. "I was accused of something I didn't do," she said. "By the time I could respond, the damage was already done." Silence followed. Daniel didn't interrupt. He didn't rescue her. "And what did you do then?" Robert asked, voice steady. "I survived," Lucy replied, "and I decided that one day I would clear my name." Robert studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "Good. Anyone can fall. What matters is whether they stand back up." When dinner ended, Daniel exhaled for what felt like the first time all evening. In the car, as they pulled away, he let out a quiet laugh. He likes you, he said. Lucy stared out the window at the darkening road. I think he likes honesty more than perfection. That's why you were perfect tonight, Daniel replied, then caught himself. I mean convincing. She smiled faintly. Careful, you're blurring the lines. He didn't answer. The following days moved quickly. A civil ceremony at City Hall, a few signatures, a brief kiss that was polite and restrained, though Lucy felt its echo long after they stepped apart. Papers filed, photos taken, congratulations murmured. By evening, Lucy Hart became Lucy Reed, at least on paper. Her room in the house was spacious, understated, carefully neutral. Daniel showed her where breakfast would be served, where she could read undisturbed, how to call Margaret if she needed anything. He stood awkwardly at the door, hands in his pockets. If anything feels uncomfortable, he said, tell me. This arrangement only works if you feel safe. Lucy met his eyes. I do. More than I expected. That night, lying in a bed that felt too soft to be real, she wondered when safety had become such a rare gift. The illusion cracked the next morning. Margaret appeared at the breakfast table with a polite cough. Mrs. Reed, she said carefully, there's a gentleman asking for you in the sitting room. He says you know him from your previous life. Lucy's fork froze midair. What's his name? She asked, already knowing the answer. Professor Alan Brooks. The room tilted. She found him standing by the window,
you serious
impeccably
right now?
dressed,
Yes,
his smile
of course
practiced
I
and
will.
familiar in the worst possible
You
way.
made me the happiest
The
man
man who had
alive.
signed the report that ended her career. The man who had watched her fall and never looked back. Lucy, he said warmly, you look improved. What are you doing here? She asked, keeping her voice steady. I heard you married well, he replied lightly. Congratulations, I came to offer peace. Peace, she echoed. He leaned closer. I can make the accusations disappear. Publicly, quietly. All it would cost you is a small contribution. Consider it. A correction fee. Her hands clenched. You destroyed my life. And now you have the means to fix it, he said. 48 hours. After that, I might remember certain details differently. When he left, Lucy locked herself in her room and stared at the wall until her chest hurt. She called Daniel. He came home immediately. When she finished telling him everything, his face was dark with restrained fury. He's trying to extort you. He already did, Lucy whispered. Once. This is just the echo. Daniel paced the room once, then stopped. Trust me, he said quietly. Let me handle this. And if this destroys your inheritance, she asked, your family? He met her gaze without hesitation. Then it destroys it. Some things matter more. Something inside her shifted. Something dangerous. That evening, as the house settled into silence, Lucy realized the truth she had been avoiding. This was no longer just a contract. It was a turning point. And the next choice she made would decide not only her future, but Daniel's as well. Lucy didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Professor Brooks standing in the sitting room, perfectly composed, as if he'd never signed the document that erased her life. The house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that made thoughts louder instead of calmer. At dawn, she was already dressed, sitting at the edge of the bed, staring at the envelope Daniel had left on the desk. Inside were contact numbers, names of lawyers, investigators, people with influence. Proof that when Daniel said he would handle it, he meant it. When he came down for breakfast, he stopped short when he saw her. You didn't sleep, he said. Neither did you, she replied. He poured coffee for both of them, a small domestic gesture that felt strangely intimate. I've made calls, he said quietly. Brooks isn't acting alone. Men like him rarely do. Lucy wrapped her hands around the mug. If this turns public, it could hurt you. Your grandfather. The company. Daniel met her eyes. And if we stay silent, it destroys you. That's not a trade I'm willing to make. She swallowed. Why? He hesitated, then answered honestly. Because I know what it's like to watch someone you love be crushed by lies and feel powerless to stop it. Lucy didn't ask who he meant. She could hear it in his voice. By noon, the investigator Daniel hired arrived. A calm man in his 50s, with tired eyes and a methodical voice. He listened as Lucy told her story again, every detail she had tried to bury. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "This isn't the first time," he said. "Brooks has done this before. Different universities. Same pattern. Accusation, pressure, silence." Lucy's breath caught. "You can prove it." "Yes," he said, "but it will take courage. And exposure." That afternoon, Brooks returned. This time he didn't smile. "You're making a mistake," he said when Lucy refused to let him inside. "I can still ruin you." Daniel stepped forward, his presence suddenly solid, unmovable. "You already tried," he said. "Now it's our turn." Brooks laughed, but it sounded thin. "You think money makes you untouchable." "No," Daniel replied calmly. "Truth does." 2 days later, the truth detonated. Documents surfaced, testimonies from other academics, financial trails that didn't align with Brooks's modest salary. The university reopened the investigation. Media inquiries followed. Quiet questions turned into loud ones. Brooks vanished from campus by the end of the week. Lucy watched the news from the living room, knees pulled to her chest, as a spokesperson announced her name had been officially cleared. Cleared. The word felt unreal. She didn't realize she was crying until Daniel knelt in front of her and gently wiped her cheek with his thumb. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The days that followed moved quickly. Universities reached out. Apologies arrived. Invitations to teach again, to publish, to return to the world she had been exiled from. One evening, Lucy found Daniel in the study, staring at the original contract they had signed. 6 months, he said quietly. That was the deal. She sat across from him. And yet here we are. He folded the paper slowly. If you want to leave now, I'll understand. You don't owe me anything. Lucy felt a strange calm settle over her. What if I want to stay? Daniel looked up sharply. Not because of money, she continued, not because of safety, because somewhere between defending me and believing me, you stopped being part of an agreement and became part of my life. His voice was barely audible. That's a risk. I know, she said, but I have already lost everything once. I'm not afraid of starting again.
Are you serious?
For a long moment,
right
neither
now?
of them moved.
Yes, of
Then
course
Daniel
I
stood,
will.
crossed the room, and tore the
You
contract
made me the
cleanly in half.
happiest man alive.
The next months felt different. Real. Lucy returned to teaching. Her first lecture greeted with applause she hadn't expected and nearly couldn't endure. Daniel launched the scholarship program he'd always talked about, funding students who reminded Lucy painfully of who she used to be. They learned each other slowly. Morning coffee habits, unspoken fears, the way Daniel went silent when family was mentioned, the way Lucy still flinched at unexpected emails. Love didn't arrive like lightning. It arrived like breathing, returning after drowning. 1 year later, Daniel asked her a question they both already knew the answer to. Not on one knee, not with an audience. Just the two of them, standing in the kitchen, sunlight spilling across the floor. This time, he said, no contracts, no deadlines, just us. Lucy smiled through tears. Yes. Years passed. They returned to the same park where everything had begun, now with a child laughing between them, unaware of how fragile that place once was. Lucy thought of the woman she had been when she knelt by a trash bin, convinced her life was over. She thought of how close she'd been to disappearing quietly, and she realized something simple and terrifying. Sometimes salvation doesn't arrive as kindness. Sometimes it arrives as a question that changes everything. Do you think Lucy made the right choice? Trusting Daniel from the beginning? What part of this story moved you the most? If you enjoyed this story, comment 100 below. Tell me which country you're watching from, and if this story touched you, please share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances.